February this year, on the 27th, 2024, at 7:10 a.m., I actually summited Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I had 5 days and 4 nights to think about my life.
You finally opened an Instagram page, and I think it has taken you forever.
I was already on my third beer when I was opening that Instagram page.
If today you tell me you're changing the world, and then you take your Fanta and you throw the bottle away.
Yeah, especially guys who have cars, man. It's normally so disgusting.
Whether you're feeding the entire country and you're doing those small things, because it's a combination of those small things that really build up to a nasty generation.
Yeah.
Birth, anything, What is the role of community according to you? Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Young and Daring. Today's guest is the originator of Young and Daring, Obam.
Tell me.
You're not young.
I don't know what you define by young. Young is, if you were told to define young, what would you say?
Below 26.
Then I'm young.
You're turning 27 in 1 month. But anyway.
Did you have to tell the whole world about my age?
The reason I'm asking that question is young and daring.
Yeah.
Is it that you have been daring enough, or is it that you're looking for young people who are daring to tell their stories?
I am actually a coward to some extent, I must say. But February this year, on the 27th, 2024, at 7:10 a.m., I actually summited Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I had 5 days and 4 nights to think about my life.
Yeah.
I was gonna give up when I got to the rim at Gilman's Point, because from Gilman's Point to the summit, Uhuru Peak, is about. It felt like it was an hour or 2 hours, and you know what? I passed lots and lots of people because I had this guide who was also very, very young. And he told me something that, after that, this just came to mind, that you have to dare to get to the summit. And I was like, yeah, I'm young and I'm going to dare to do that. That's a funny way of telling you about this story of young and daring. But that's more or less one of the days where I thought this is how this space of this show is going to be called, Young and Daring.
5 days, 4 nights.
Yeah.
Outside in Tanzania.
In TZ, in Kili, yeah.
Yeah, in TZ,
That was a lot of fun.
The Obam before the 5 days and the Obam after the 5 days. What would you say was the biggest differentiator of the experience? What you've become after and what you were before. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is. The main difference is the phrase "never give up" is now very fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. Because I was gonna give up, I won't lie to you. So maybe I need to tell you this. So on the summiting night of Kilimanjaro, you wake up at like 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Because you need to summit at night. So we wake up at 10:30 p.m. We regroup so that at 11 p.m. we start the summiting. It's at night. Thanks be to God, the moon was out. But the beginning was very easy, But I felt there was something off to some extent because, this was monumental for me. Anyway, we went, and then at about 3 a.m., man, it just hit me. I was getting altitude sickness. The food in my stomach wasn't digesting. My feet were frozen. And I was just like, what the actual fruits? Where am I going here? Like, I can go back and I can come back some other day.
Yeah.
But man, I've told you about this guy that I had. Yuda is his name. Yuda really encouraged me. He told me, no, Obam, we have to go. And you actually have to summit. And after all this whining, I actually got to the summit. So for me, the phrase "never give up" made much, much more sense later on. So the Obam before the summit and the Obam after is the Obam before could give up, The Obam after doesn't give up on anything.
And this experience of having another young person hold your hand, did it play such a big part in you, I mean, submitting eventually, but was it your kicker, was it the thing that made you get to the top?
No, that was a secondary reason. The
Yeah.
main reason is the guys I went with.
Yeah.
I went with some four other young chaps. Alain Murage, a very young guy, actually, he's yet to graduate from university.
Wow.
A young doctor Steve, hasn't graduated from uni yet. He's still a medical student. Then we had a young software engineer who just completed Strathmore, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And then obviously the guide, who is also not so young, Abbas. So these people, I could see them, because you have to remember the journey. So remember, we were on a tight budget when we were going to Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
If I tell you the journey there, you'll be like, you guys are nuts. So we agreed we're meeting at Rubis in town, just behind Nano Evangelism Center at 3 a.m. Because remember, we were going to Tanzania in a matatu. So we had to go to Naikana, board a matatu, and then go to Loitoktok at the border. And then from the border, we were meant to, cross through, have our passport stamp. On the other side, there was actually a Kikuyu. Kikuyus are doing business everywhere. Who was waiting for us in a small
Pro box.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a pro box. It was one of this, like, it was something of that sort.
Yeah.
Something used to transport people. So for me, seeing the journey we had made with these four young people, and all of them, we had made up our mind that, you know what, we are going to summit. Because already we were trying to break records. We didn't have our bags carried by the porters. We carried our bags ourselves. So going up that mountain with like 20 kilos on your back,
Yeah.
that was quite something. So the reason why I submitted, Yuda comes more or less, I mean, he encouraged me and all that. But these people who I went with, I wasn't going to disappoint them that I won't submit.
Yeah. So 5 days later, you decide that, what, this podcast is going to happen, young and daring, yeah? What does daring mean to you?
That's when I decided that the podcast is going to come out. But the day it just hit me that, you know what, I actually have to do something was on that fateful Tuesday when, everything went south in Nairobi. Things were burning. And I was not in the house because I was hosting an event. So I went out to host the event. And then when I came back to the house and I was seeing all this, everything that was happening and all these young people who were out, and I was like, so what am I doing for my country myself?
Yeah.
Because these were young people who were very daring. These guys started protesting, or more or less showing their grievances to the country from 7 a.m. in the morning. 7 p.m. they were still on the road. I was like, wow, this is the young energy I need. I mean, if all these people were employed even in a factory somewhere, the kind of good stuff they would do, remarkable. So on that day, I actually called a friend of mine, Nancy, and told her, you know what, let's do the podcast. Let it roll. And that's how this was born.
And what is your end game? Yeah, if you were to look at the podcast 5 years from now, what is the one thing you want to have achieved?
I want to have told the stories of storytellers. Those people who are always behind the scenes, people you never get to see in the forefront. Yet, actually, the kind of work they do is massive work. All I want is, at the end of the day, for other young people to be inspired that, you know what, I don't have to wait to be 30, to be 40. One of my greatest inspirations is a soldier called Alexander the Great. The guy took the mantle from his dad when he was 20 years old, and he actually conquered the Persian Empire, and he died when he was 32. But we remember him even hundreds of years later. And I was like, okay, so I don't have to wait till, I'm actually 30, or, for somebody who's watching and they're 18 or whatever. They don't have to wait till, there's an age where you tick and you become, no. You're young, with whatever you have, you better start with that.
Yeah.
So that's the end game for this podcast, that somebody who will be watching us and, listening to our stories for all that time will one day say that, you know what, I didn't chicken out. I decided to dare to do something because I watched Young and Darren.
Wow, interesting. A few months ago, you were running an event, 4,000 capacity for students from ALX, and your head was running mad. Would you say that was daring, and has it contributed to where we are now? Because I mean, you say you've not done anything, any daring things, but from how I know you and from the few days and few stories you've told me, I think you are quite daring. So have those experiences, and are there any other experiences that have built out, this moment?
Now that you've brought it up, I have to talk a little bit about it. So, last year, April 17th, I joined ALX
Yeah.
as the team lead for the community team, the learner community team, because they were rolling out hybrid learning in
Yeah.
the 8 markets that they're in. So I got this opportunity to lead that team, and the first assignment I had was the Karibu ceremony.
Yeah.
I was told that, you know what, we have this, there were like 5,000, 6,000 learners. We're going to host an in-person Karibu ceremony, welcoming them to ALX community because they were going to do all these programs there.
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever hosted an event for more than 100 people.
Wow.
So all of a sudden you're being told 5,000. And it's not like you're being told this is a rubric to follow, this is the template.
Yeah.
You're sent out. In fact, that reminds me of one of the quotations by Christ in the Bible. He says that, I'm sending you like sheep among wolves.
Yeah.
Be cunning as serpents.
Yeah.
That's how I took it. Because it began with, and I have to thank the amazing team at ALX. We helped each other for quite, for the better part of the things. Wangeshi, especially the fellowship manager, there was a guy called JD, and obviously the GM, Peter. Amazing people. So it was from scouting for the venue, obviously running the program and all that. You can't please 4,000 people, all of them at the same time. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But then, I was given the task to do it. And I think that was eye-opening. It made me, for the longest time, I am not a very public person. I like my life very private. But I had to show my face and I had to be out there. And you had to inspire these people. In fact, I remember on that day I was giving the story of JF Kennedy, of the moonshot idea, because it's JF Kennedy who said in 61, when he just took over the presidency, that America was going to land guys in the moon by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
And actually, true to his word, even though he was assassinated, I think in 62 or 63,
Yeah.
in 69 America landed on the moon.
Yeah.
So that was actually the story I was going to give. And remember, I was coming to a space where I had been less than a month old, and I was meant to actually instill the spirit of doing hard things and working hard into these young people.
Yeah.
So that was quite an eye-opener. And looking back now at it, maybe that was a daring thing to do.
It was a very daring to, and in the spirit of showing up and being daring, you finally opened an Instagram page, and I think it has taken you forever. It has taken us.
Do you want me
begging.
I was already on my 3rd beer when I was opening that Instagram page. Like you, I remember you telling me at night that, by the way, you need to open this particular page. I'm like, is it necessary? Can we just run with that? And he was like, no. So yeah, blame it on the beer.
So I'm not blaming it on the beer, because I think it's for some of us it's just another social media page, but for you I think it was quite daring, considering the number of times we've literally begged you to at least have one social media page.
Maybe it's good to tell you the story behind it. When I was in campus, I had a pseudo Instagram page, which I was just on Instagram to see.
Stalking? Who are you stalking?
Bro, there were lots of people to stalk,
Should you specify the gender? Was it people or girls?
Shaka. No, so, but then just after campus, I was lucky. I was lucky to finish amongst the top people in our class. The narrative had always been that, you go to this really beautiful school, after that, you'll actually get a job. That was the narrative. That's
Yeah.
what I sailed with.
Yeah.
After I finished my fourth year, you graduated top of your class,
Yeah.
and then you start applying for jobs and you don't get any.
Yeah.
And then I could see all my friends on Instagram posting stuff and all. It was not out of envy, but I thought it was taking a toll on me.
Yeah.
So I just quit Instagram. I quit LinkedIn. I quit everything. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start building.
And remained with your beer.
Yeah, with no one watching.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up doing social media. And for the longest time, I haven't had any social media platform on my phone.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I mean I think it's good because now we're trying to build a community of young and daring people, and it's good that I'm never gonna get to meet all of them in person.
Yeah.
But at least I have now a platform where I can engage with them. That's the only reason why I decided to come back to Instagram.
As we sort of wrap up and bring the context together, something you've mentioned again and again and again, I think it's what you do every day: community. What is the actual role of community in our lives? And I mean, you build communities for a living. Here we are, two really clueless boys in this podcasting space trying to build another community here. What is the actual role of community and having a community birth anything, What is the role of community according to you?
I was brought up by community.
Yeah.
Maybe this is one thing people don't know. People just get to meet me and think that, you know what, Obam dropped from heaven. But that's not the case. I was very lucky that when I was a kid, my dad used to work for a really decent company. He used to work for the British Oxygen Company.
Yeah.
So that was a decent. So we were staying in Nairobi, in Kayole. And I remember very well in 2009, his contract was terminated. Okay, he retired.
Yeah.
Because I'm from a very, very large family, 9 children. I'm the 7th born.
Wow.
9, 7th born. So you can imagine, like I have older siblings and all that kind of thing. So we go back to the village, and then now I was schooling at a school called Sunrise Academy in Kayole, and then now I had to go back to Shags because my dad was retired. My mom has always been a peasant farmer, so all she does is subsistent farming.
Yeah.
So we go back, and then there's this culture shock, quote unquote, but also a shift in life. I started going to the closest primary school there. I was Asango Primary School. I tell people, but then they don't believe it. Like, we used to go to school barefoot. Like, for me, it's only later on when I come to Nairobi and then guys are like, what? You actually used to do that? But that was normal. Everyone was doing it.
Yeah.
But it was a huge shift because in Nairobi, we used to go to school in shoes.
Yeah.
But now we go down there. And anyway, fast forward, I finished my KCPE. Remember, my dad is long retired.
Yeah.
And he cannot afford my school fees because I was called to a really good, prestigious school.
Yeah.
But I saw the power of community. Like, the community came together, raised money, and especially, this is a massive shout out to my mother. I mean, she did the most. And I found myself going to the school that I was called to.
Strathmore.
No, this was Lenana School.
Lenana
It was
School.
high school, yeah. Strathmore came way later. I mean, I went to Strathmore because I went to Lenana School. But I saw that power of community. It's just that I disregarded them. I thought about it way later on in life when I was trying to, I had an existential crisis. I just didn't know what the fruits I want to do with my life. Like, have you ever gotten to that point where you're like, okay, so then what?
Yeah.
So we've achieved all this, then what? Yeah. We've already attained a high school degree. We've attained a university degree. You have a decent job that can more or less
sort your bills.
Decent job, but I had never been employed really.
Yeah.
I've always been running companies. That's a story for another day. If you want us, we can do it now. The reason why as I told you that, graduating top of your class, you don't get a job, especially in the big four, everyone else wanted to go to KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and PwC. I did all those applications. None of them came through. I was like, what? So then that's when I founded the first telecoms company. And shout out to one of my friend called Felix. He's the one who told me that, actually we can start a company. I had never thought it because my parents never ran a company. None of my siblings ran a company. None of my relatives that I know ran a company. So running a company was something very, very peculiar. But I went for it. So anyway, thinking about it way later on is when I noticed, wow, there is something in community. There is something when you bring people together. There is something when people feel a sense of belonging to somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's why even for you running the Arctic community, it's really powerful because people actually feel a sense of belonging
Yeah.
there. I was having a conversation with one of the members, and he told me, "Oh my God, I'd never seen a community like that." I was like, really? So all these things, piecing them together and now having run a community of like, more than 10,000 human beings, like, and then you see the change that these people have metamorphosed into, and you're like, wow, this is really, really cool. So that's the reason why I enjoy building communities, places where people feel a sense of belonging. And also it's because I had a more or less lonely childhood to some extent. I had siblings, but I don't like small talk. I don't like I can do
You're
small
brainy.
sips tea.
Shaka.
I don't know if that's the case, but I can do small talk for
For a short time.
10 minutes, 20 minutes. But then after that, I want you to engage me. Tell me, what are we thinking about? What are we going to
You are
do?
a sapiosexual.
Oh, shaka. For all the beautiful ladies who are, wewe, wachana na hiyo maneno bwana. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's the reason why I build community, because I have seen the importance of actually a community.
Yeah, and for sure, at some point we are going to dive into your story. I think I've had the privilege of knowing part of it. I think it's such a beautiful story. But I think for today's episode, it's two clueless young men who build communities for a living and have decided to build another community. And as you've said that we have a lot of young people who are very daring, who are doing exemplary stuff. Yeah, we have founders, we have lawyers, we have engineers doing things, and nobody is telling their stories. Maybe
Some of them it's because they don't really want to tell the
tell,
story. Even for me to convince you to freaking get your nini on that seat, we had to fight. It's not because these guys don't want to tell the story, but I think it's just because they just want to work in silence.
so what you're saying is we want to tell those stories now.
Yeah, the stories of storytellers.
Yeah, so that's the story behind Young and Daring. For sure, our goal is to tell these stories. So if whether you want to get your story told or not, Obam is going to force you.
I think
To
I think
tell
for
your
the
story.
better part of the podcast is we will tell
Each
most
other's
of us
stories.
most of our stories
Yeah.
first, because we haven't done that much with our lives. But when we started the podcast, you asked me a question that what does young mean? And I've actually been thinking a lot about it, because I have met people who are 70 years, but they are very young at heart.
Yes.
So, to some extent, I'm thinking that maybe it's not an age
It's an age.
factor.
It's not an age factor.
Have you met like people who are like that?
Yeah,
Young people, or people who are, genealogically, age-wise, they are actually very old.
I won't talk about young. I've met young people who are very old at heart. Man, you listen to some young people speak, you're like, damn, you've.
Can you give an example?
I won't give an example, but they are wearing pink on the podcast today. Anyway, but I think I've met very young people who have, I'll say, a lot of experience that makes their souls very old, and all these things they've gone through, things they've experienced. So yeah, I don't think it's about age. The same thing I said last time. Even for leadership, I don't think we want 20-year-olds running this country. We just want accountability for whoever is running the country. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a question of, are you young? But besides the young thing, how daring are you
You
conquer life?
let me ask you something. You've been one of those, can I say it? I mean, it's not been privilege really, because you've worked to get that.
Yeah.
You've been in boardrooms where, you were speaking to those who call the shots.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty old folks. How does it normally make you feel when you're in a boardroom with them?
Man, I won't lie. Since I started walking into boardrooms, a lot has changed. From wearing suits by force and other things.
Did you wear that by force?
Yes, it was by force.
Who forced you?
The host of the podcast, the
Please,
guests.
please.
Ulikuwa nataka nikae.
Ulijonta vaa suti?
I knew it.
Na umeniingilia na hii suti yangu ya pink.
Anyway, I think you sit with people who've gone there before you, and you realize that there's a lot more to see. And I think my favorite quote nowadays is, "You don't know what you don't know." So you're there, you think, I've gone to Strathmore, I've learned all these things, and you meet somebody who doesn't have the book knowledge, but what the streets have shown them.
Yeah.
The experience they have from interacting with other people, the experience they have from generally existing. At times we assume the lessons we learn from very simple things, from making a cup of tea, from lifting a table up. I think we really assume the lessons that come out of these small things.
Yeah.
And at times they are powerful lessons.
Yeah.
Very powerful lessons. So I think that's what it has given me. The ability to understand that I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. And has it made you a little bit curious in terms of knowledge? Like you're always going out there to find out, what more can I get to understand? What more can I know?
I'm now learning about things I shouldn't be learning, genuinely. Just because you don't know whether you'll be in a room next time and people are saying things and you look like a fool.
Is there a time you've been in a room and you were actually clueless of what the guys were talking about?
Let me tell you. Hey, last week I was in a boardroom.
Yeah.
Funny story, we were discussing about the startup ecosystem. But man, I knew nothing of what they were saying. I knew nothing.
You have been training startups for the past 4 years, 5 years of your life.
Man, the guy I was listening to, bro, he's the one who's built out this ecosystem. He was the one engaging World Bank and the Korean government in the 2006, 2008, man. I didn't even know. That time I was in class 7, 6. So I'm sitting in that room, I'm there. I ran Startinev, I know about startups.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy understands the startup ecosystem from such a granular level. We really love the top layer stuff.
Yeah.
We really love the beauty, the nice things.
I mean, guys only show you what they've come up with.
This
guy
understands the startup ecosystem at the granular level. I listened to him for straight 4 hours, and out of those 4 hours, what I knew was probably 2%. I walked out of that room. Nowadays, I'm only reading reports on data that has been tabulated and accumulated over time. And man, whatever we say out here and whatever actually exists are two different things.
But let me ask...
There's a monster that has not been unearthed. There's a total monster that has not been unearthed.
If, with all the knowledge you have now of how the world operates, given a chance to go back to uni or, to go back maybe 10 years from now, is there something you do different?
I'll give a very controversial answer because I'll say something and then I'll contradict it. I wouldn't go to university.
You wouldn't?
Yes. I'd do a short course on entrepreneurship, on, like simple things. I'd do a 3-month on entrepreneurship, 3-month on... I'm really learning about market intelligence now. On market intelligence, I would do something short on technology, on innovation. But then the reason I say it's controversial, Strathmore built me. Like the friends I have, building out Startinev, even Arctic existing, even meeting all the people I've met now, all that stems from Strathmore. So it's a place where I don't think I would change anything. But then if I had the ability to, I'd not do a full degree.
I normally tend to think that actually universities are meant to be a place where you socialize.
Yes.
A place where you get to understand how to live with other human beings.
Yeah.
Not a place where you gain knowledge.
Yes. Yes. So I would,
You gain knowledge of
in the
living.
process.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
gain
process.
knowledge in
Yeah.
the process because I remember, I finished uni, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like I had zero clue.
Yeah.
I think because I have been lucky enough to deal with many university students and high school students, and most of them, the question is the same. Like, what should I do? When you live around lawyers, maybe you want to be a lawyer. When you live around software engineers, maybe you want to be. I lived around people who, like, they were farmers.
Yeah.
But then you come to Nairobi and you see, farming is not what I really want to do per se, because it was, you'd want to do like large scale farming, not subsistent farming that, you can only provide for 2 or 3 people, but you want to provide for hundreds of thousands of people. So, yeah, for me, I really think that university should be a place where people go, socialize, meet new people, like make many friends. I think I am where I am because of the friends I made in uni.
Same.
Do you have-
Everything I have right now,
Yeah.
everything I attribute it to Strathmore.
Okay, for me, I attribute it first of all to Lenana School because that's where, if it had not been for that, I wouldn't have ended up in Strathmore. But can you give an example of, like, you don't have to mention name, but you could if you want to. One person you met in campus and your interaction with them or the things you've done, of how they've benefited your life, you're really grateful.
Michael, you've met Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Ochola. He is a podcaster as well, but a streets podcast. He talks about all the wrong things.
Yeah.
But I met Michael because he had applied for a program we were running at Strathcube back then. And I think Michael is 4 years younger than me, but I learned so much from that boy. I learned, like, he's so brilliant.
Yeah.
To a point where, at the moment, anybody asks me anything about numbers, be it payments, be it sijui balancing sheets, sijui what, invoicing, he handles all my company's finances, literally everything.
Really?
Yes.
I've met him. He's a happy-go-lucky, by the way.
He's so smart, and the value he's added in my life, man, I don't even know. And my other 4 co-founders, all of them are from Strathmore, man. And now the board members I've met again. If I didn't form that base at that level, Strathmore, Starting wouldn't have existed. And I talked about how Starting even came out of Strathcube, and now Arctic Chapel and all these other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I attribute a lot to the people I met in campus.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I don't think I talked to too many classmates, maybe 4 or 5. But
My
the
good
people
Lord.
I met around that circle have changed me in ways I can't explain.
No, there's just a way in which after uni, guys just go their way.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, I'm lucky to know a couple of people who are still very close to me, who we were in uni together. But most of them, like once in a while, they reach out, we speak and all that. But they're not as, like, I can call them. Unaweza nitumia 2K urgently.
True. And I think that's what community gives you. And I think it's also realizing that you need to grow out of communities. Like at the moment, I've put myself at a place where I was complaining to one of my closest friends that I'm getting drained too much.
What do you mean you're getting drained?
Because every space I walk into, people want to learn from me. So innocent, my business. So innocent, innocent,
Yeah.
So I'd gotten to a point where I was avoiding people.
I know. That becomes really, really hard. And you've been one of those really. You've inspired me quite a lot to understand that you don't have to think about what I'm getting from it before you give.
No.
Like, just give. Just don't think about what's my cut in it.
Friendship is not transactional. The moment it becomes transactional, it's just a business. Anyway, going back to the point, so what I've done and what has really helped me, I've created this group of 6 people where it's such a hilarious group. We just send memes there. We are 6 of us, but I think in terms of wealth, knowledge, beauty. Okay, some of them don't have hair. Wealth, knowledge,
Is hair a measure
beauty.
of beauty? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm just throwing banter at a friend. He'll know
I
himself.
mean, our producer is laughing because he doesn't have hair. Dougie. Yeah.
In that group, I think I'm the least. So I learn so much. Those guys, we jump on calls and I learn so much from them. So what I've done, I've put myself at a place where, okay, I'm feeding all these people, but I'm also being fed by these other people. And two of my closest friends are younger than me. Well, I think both of them are 22, but these two kids, man, I talk to them and I'll ask them, I'm always putting myself in their shoes. So I'll be like, by the way, what do you think about this? It's really stressing me out. And they'll listen to me like they are my parents. Then they'll give me solutions.
Yeah.
So I've really learned how to tap in as well. Because, you empty. Then when you come to me for help, I'm giving you my emptiness.
Is that what you normally give me?
Most times.
I mean, all we do when we're together is eating. Nyama choma.
You're not lactose intolerant. No, it's not lactose.
What is lactose intolerant? I never used to have meat till I was in high school. Like I started having meat when I was in high school.
Lactose is for milk. There's another one for meat. Gluten something.
No, vegetarian. Maybe lactose.
No, there's another one, gluten something, man.
Okay, whatever. Anyone who knows about that can put it in the comment section. We want to understand those who doesn't take meat. Like, how are they called?
I had Pastor Nganga saying that if a doctor ever told him that he can't eat meat, he'll have to fight that doctor. He'll be eating more meat. If he still don't take sugar, you can't dictate how I live my life.
It's a doctor. It's a doctor who's telling you. I mean, you wouldn't believe a doctor.
The same way nobody can tell you to stop taking your beers, no?
No, I mean, do you know why? So maybe I need to clarify this. Because now all my community members will think I'm a drunkard. I mean, by the taking beers is not being a drunkard. So I only have beer when I'm around with my friends. Okay, once in a while when I'm
Don't
working
over-explain.
home. Okay, so
it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, I think that's the role of community and meeting people. But then it's also a balance of being of value to them, because you don't want to be in a community where you're just there.
You're just drinking. There's
no, even if you're not drinking, at times you're just not drinking. Neither are you giving, man. You're not of value. So I think the spaces we've created and now the space we are trying to create is a space that really does both. It feeds us,
yeah,
but then we try as much as possible to feed them. And I think we were putting together the guest lineup for season 1, man. I'm so ready to learn.
Yeah,
I'm just ready to learn.
It's learning from people, but one thing I noticed, one of the reasons why we actually had to do this second episode with you was because I think you and I have been very lucky in life. Do you think so?
Let's say, I don't hide it. I think Giuliani says it this way. Let me tell you how he says it. At times and most times, we speak, we act, we think, whatever, from a point of privilege. We are not lucky, man. Everybody is lucky in their own right.
Yeah.
We could be having shoes and we think we are lucky. To somebody else, luck could look like something else. I think it's privilege. It's not luck. I think it's privilege.
So you think we are privileged? Could you please explain? When you say somebody is privileged, what do you mean?
I am privileged to meet you. It's not luck that brought us together. It's privilege, man. Like, I'm privileged to know you and to even agree that we are going to do this together.
Yeah.
I think there's a very thin line for luck. It almost looks like magic.
In fact, they normally say is that luck is when hard work meets an opportunity. That's when luck is. So there has to be a lot of hard work going on in the background for you to one day just spot one opportunity, but you've already been working hard. It's not like...
Yeah, privilege, on the other hand, is you calling me and telling me, I think we should do a podcast together. That's privilege, bro. I wasn't working hard for this thing. I was just chilling in my house in Runda View, hoping one day, don't you dare, hoping
Did you call where you stay Runda View?
hoping one day things will work out.
It wouldn't have used that in the name of an apartment or whatever. But anyway, it's okay.
I think it's privilege. We speak from a point of privilege. You've been privileged enough to go to Lenana, go to Strathmore. I've been privileged enough to travel the world. I've been privileged enough to do a lot of other things that brought all this together.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it's speaking from a point of privilege. Privilege in terms of wealth, privilege in terms of knowledge. You know one thing that everyone else in the room doesn't know.
Yeah.
Privilege to be able to afford such a set. I mean, how many podcasters do we have who have way better moderators, way better hosts, have way better guests, but they don't have even the setup we have.
Yeah.
I think it's from a point of privilege. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. When you're talking about privilege, one of the things that came to mind is how many times we take things for granted. Like, not all things that are granted should be granted, really. Like, and we take, the fact that we went to really decent schools
Yes.
doesn't mean that we have to go thumping our chests that, you know what, we have all this and we have done this. And because most of the things we have done them when we are very, very, but very, very young. There are things which even, our parents would have wanted to achieve, but they haven't achieved. There is another thing I wanted to ask you, because I know there is something you're doing with children. What should we do? Anyone who is maybe listening to this and is part of the community and they're privileged, what would you tell them?
And they're privileged.
Yeah, they have a privilege. Like the way you say that, me knowing you is a privilege and you knowing me is a privilege. How should they make sure that they leverage on that privilege? Mostly for the good, because, we're not talking about anything evil here. What would you tell the privileged ones?
I think the point of privilege, it puts you on a pedestal. And when if you look at how events are set up, if you're on a pedestal, if you're on a stage, everybody else sits to listen to you.
Yeah.
So anytime you're on a pedestal, you're required to give. The expectation from the crowd is to receive. So if you're at a point of privilege, I think the automatic, natural reaction is, I'm going to give back. Yeah. So if you're at a point of privilege, man, I think you have, so that you're able to give, be it wealth, be it health. We can donate kidneys if need be, and blood and all that.
Yeah.
Wealth, health, knowledge, time, physical touch.
Physical touch is a love language, Bona. Are you looking for someone?
No, that's not the point, bro.
Are you looking?
That's not the point.
No, I have to say this because the community is such. I want to be. I love you guys so much, in the sense that I can tell you some of the insider stories that maybe you don't know about my guests, and today I'm the guest, about my host. One day, Innocent shows up at my house and tells me, Obam, I finally gotten a girlfriend. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, the guy had a car, and now that was the girlfriend. Shaka. Bona, Innocent, do better. You have to do better. Now, there is something you've said which has really caught my attention. I have been lucky enough to be on many stages, and I've hosted lots and lots of dignitaries, high net worth individuals. I've been lucky to do that. So after doing all that, a bunch of my teammates came and asked me, Obam, why don't you give us tips on how to host events? It's not like I'm that good, but I try. And one of the things that I have learned with all these instances is two things, actually, not one. Number one is the 5 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor presentation.
Bona, go slowly.
Prior preparation prevents poor presentation. Those are 5 Ps.
Yeah.
And for anyone who is a host or a presenter, or, sometimes you find yourself on top of a stage and you have to deliver. The second thing I have learned, and this is really also important, is the show has to always go on.
Yes.
Like, whether you're sick, whether you feel like today remember that anyone in the audience is feeling I mean, is feeding off your energy.
Yeah.
So if your energy is low, everybody's gonna be low.
Yeah.
So it doesn't care. I mean, and this one I tell most of my team members. And I have to shout out to them, One is two ladies actually, Abigail and Wanjiru. I mean, I've seen them actually showcase that, and it's really, really interesting. But the show has to always go on.
The show has to go on.
Do you have instances in which you always feel like, you know what, man, today I don't want to go to work. Like today, can I just? It's been really cold in Nairobi, by the way. Na hauna mtu umekuwa ukitaka
Ulinunua heater.
na umekuwa ukitaka ulikaribu ibe hiyo heater yangu wewe.
No, you're buying me a heater today.
That's what you want?
Yes.
You want us to go where to find it?
China Square.
Do you think we'll find like really decent ones there?
Yes.
We will go and see. But I mean,
I'm forcing a gift on myself.
But it's because you're feeling very cold.
You live, man. Me, I don't live in Limuru.
Anyway.
Naishi Runda view. But
kwani Runda kuna baridi sana.
Bwana huko pesa ni mingi
Anyway, my question, and one of the things I wanted to hear from you is: are there those days that you feel like, you know what, I don't want to go out, I just want to sleep today, I don't want to wake up, I know I have that meeting, but and how do you counter that?
Yeah, and I've said this a million times. Yeah, every day I woke up and I felt like I didn't want to do this. I remembered a young person who depends on me to eat a better meal that day. And man, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody the other day, and I think I mentioned it on the other episode. If I was to die by choice.
Nobody dies by choice.
I mean, if I was given the option to die by choice. Yes.
Death is the only certain and
and
uncertain thing at the same time. We don't die by choice.
I'm building up this story.
Okay.
If God gave me choice.
Okay.
Yeah. When do you want to die? I want one thing. I want to have 100 orphans I have taken through the entire education system. They'll have the best food, they'll have the best uniform, they'll go to the best schools, 100 of them. The moment the 100th one graduates and I die that day, I've achieved it. I don't care whether I'll have a car, whether I'll have a house, whether I'll be walking naked. I don't care. That day,
why don't we start doing it now? You already have 6 in a children's home. Let's get more.
So, and it's something I do for a living. I support a lot of young people, orphans. So, I mean, I've been doing it only during my birthdays. I think maybe we should figure out how to do it a lot more often.
Yeah,
because it's not like we can't.
Yeah. I mean, instead of doing it once in a while, because also for me, some of the things that have made my life very interesting is I remember we used to do a lot of visits to the poor, to the sick, so we would go to, for example, the cancer ward in Kenyatta Hospital, and we'd meet really nice, jolly kids there. And I love playing soccer, so we'd play soccer with them. Then the next time you come, you're told so-and-so died. This kid you're playing soccer with was clueless. They don't even understand what cancer is. They have no idea. But you come back and they're dead. I would go to Kotolengo, which is also a children's home for kids who've been abandoned and they have HIV/AIDS. And I would play with those kids, and some of them would call me dad. And I was like, what? This is strange.
I'll talk about that point, yeah. And this is what parenthood means to me. Mother or father is not who gives birth to you. I mean, how many kids who have mothers and fathers?
That's the natural name you give to somebody who's given birth to you, my mother.
Bwana, we should change that. Anyway, the point is, we who are privileged, let me talk about it from a point of privilege, have a role to go back to our communities and give back.
Yeah.
I mean, my story, your story, if somebody outside our families, outside our fathers and mothers, didn't hold our hands, I tungekuwa tunavuta bangi labda huko ushago. I mean, you wouldn't be drinking Guinness ungoko ukikunywa sijui nini hizo unakunywa.
Usingililie watu bwana.
Yeah. But the point is, I feel like we are privileged so that we can pass on that privilege to somebody else. You can pay school fees for somebody else. You can buy shoes for somebody else. I mean, how many times have you seen me force people to pay more, even to a border guy.
You forced me. Why are you talking about other people? You forced me to tip more to the waiters, to pay a little, I mean, an extra coin to an Uber or a border guy. I mean, I know that. In fact, there was a day I tipped somebody 20 bob. Ukaniangalia ukasema, Obam, ati umedu nini hiyo? I'm like, guy, I don't have money, bwana. Shaka. Anyway.
You have privilege so that you can pass it on to somebody else. And I mean, if anybody who's privileged doesn't look at it like that, then we are being really unfair. And I mean, I'm not political. I don't even want to be president anytime soon or ever. But if our leaders really cared, from a point of privilege, what they would be working so hard to do is pass on that privilege. When you're given CDF 20 billion to build a school, you'll actually build a decent school.
Yeah.
Because the day you're not there, the privilege you passed on will be passed on, and before you know it, you'll have a community full of intellects. That's what some of these very rich communities have.
Yeah.
People passed on privilege. We are not willing to pass on privilege. If I have a suit, I feel like I'm better, I'm bigger.
If your friend or your colleague gets a suit, you feel like now there's competition here.
Yes, man, we are not competing. You wear your pink suit, I'll wear my black suit. Tomorrow we get a small kid a white suit.
Yeah, that would be great. I get to work with learners a lot, especially at ALX. So I had this fantastic lady who came and approached me and told me, you know what, Obama, I want to change the world. Can you please help me with a way in which I can change? I mean, I looked at her and I was like, wow. I like your spirit, but let me tell you something, young lady. Before you change the world, can you think about what you're doing for your country?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing for your country? And even before you think about what you're doing for your country, can you think, what are you doing for your community? Some of us come to Nairobi and we think now being in Nairobi is our community.
True. And it's the simple things, yeah? If today you tell me you're changing the world, and then you take your Fanta and you throw the bottle away.
Yeah, especially guys who have cars, man. It's normally so disgusting.
Whether you're feeding the entire country and you're doing those small things, because it's a combination of those small things that really build up to a nasty generation.
Yeah.
So I think all of us have to sit back and start from myself, the 3 people I hang out with the most, the 10 people, the 100 people, because if 100 people now affect 100 people, those 100 affect 100, man, this country is blessed. There's so much more we could achieve, but we don't pass on that privilege.
But why don't we do it?
I think it's just a systemic failure where we've not been brought up to do that. We've been brought up
No, I mean, we already
look
know
after ourselves.
We already know what the problem is. It's a systemic failure. Can we fix it?
I think a lot of young people are now starting to fix it. I mean, it's not something you can change overnight. I mean, like, even now, at times, today we're on the streets fighting for better leadership. Then our MPs goes back to our communities and they give our people 100 bob and now they're clapping for them.
They buy them
So, yes, so there's a systemic failure. For sure, we can't change it with maandamano twice, thrice. It has to be a very long-term game plan, from policy to electing the right leaders, to us who are now in points of leadership, being able to instill leadership to those we man over. I think that's where it starts. So it's probably a journey of 5-10 years, but the day it happens, man, you can't fight a generation that's woke in that way.
So if you are given the chance to be the Mr. Fix-It, where would you start? You're given the chance to, fix the problem that Kenya is facing right now. Where would you start?
Umeniweka kwa spot.
No, I mean, I'm just... we more or less know where we are as a country. I mean, you're very conversant with our economic times, where our debt is at, how much we are collecting in taxes. You've seen the developmental projects we have in terms of road, water, sewer systems and all that. You've seen the kind of leaders that we have. You've already mentioned the systemic problem. So you ask God for a magic wand and he tells you, anything you tell me now, I'm going to grant it.
Accountability. We don't have failure because of anything else. We have failure because there's no accountability. We have failure because your MP can't say how they spent the 20. Yesterday, I saw another MP who spent 1 million Kenya shillings on sodas.
So he bought the whole village sodas.
I don't know what happened. By the time you're spending 1 million on sodas, then he comes with
A soda
receipts.
is like 30, 40 shillings.
And I mean, even if you bought for the community, man, who's fooling who?
Yeah.
So I think if I would pause everything. If you've been in any sort of graft case, you know where you deserve to be.
Yeah.
Man, you'd take yourself there before I take you.
Really.
Then we restart. Because, I mean, and we discussed it last time. If today you're making 1 million Kenya shillings a month, and government tells you, for us to build better roads, we need 250,000 bob from you. If that 250,000 bob is going to build actual roads and not inflated prices, in the
Actual
right
roads.
way, bro, I'll give you 50 bob extra.
Yeah. So the accountability
It's accountability,
is
bro.
really big. And I
Even
think
right now we are saying we want new leaders, Ruto must go and everything else. We are saying it's fine, wherever that leads us. If the new leader
who comes in?
who comes in will go back to the same cycle, it will be the same cycle, the same cycle, the same cycle, now and forevermore. It's accountability. It's knowing you work for me. You've been given 20 billion to build schools. Build the schools. You've been given 20 billion to build a hospital. Build the hospital.
Yeah, there's a wise man who says that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
And yes, about power, you've reminded me, sir, because I think I know where you're headed. I was talking to somebody and somebody asked me, do we have a rich people problem or do we have a power problem? I think there are rich people in this country who don't shout, who don't kill anyone, who don't steal from anyone. They're just rich and they're okay. The people we have in power are the problem. I think power gets to their heads. And now power has totally corrupted their minds.
Yeah.
It's not about money. I'm sure there are a lot of young people who are richer than most of
Well,
our
I mean,
way richer.
I told you I saw the Salaries and Remuneration Commission when they publish like what our public officials get, and then the president earns like 1.5 million. I'm like, I know young people
Earning 4 million,
who
5
are
million.
earning 4 million bob a month, more, but there are people who are earning the MPs who are earning 500, 600,000, but they're billionaires.
Yeah.
So I don't understand this compounding effect they have on their money.
It's
But in any event, you are telling me something about power.
I think it's power. Power gets to their heads and they forget everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a power problem. It's
And the problem with that is that, man, once it becomes like an addiction, you have to constantly feed that monster.
yeah. That's why an MP will come to us and tell us whatever he thinks is in his head, and it's.
But I mean, at the end of the day, we have 5 years to actually change leadership. How
When-
comes at the end of
do-
5 years we keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Because we've I think we've not been mad enough. I think now we are mad enough to change it. We were comfortable. I mean, the people in leadership now are people who, some of them have billions of Kenya shillings in corruption cases.
Yeah.
We still brought them back in all our wisdom. But how many young people voted?
I don't know. Me, I voted.
Very few.
I regret some of the
I don't know
people
the
I voted
data.
for.
I don't know
but-
the data, but I think out of every 5 young people, only 2 voted. I don't know the data.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, most of the people I talked to didn't vote.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to change. We'll see a lot more young people voting. But now the question is, are we sober enough to vote in the right people? So I think a lot of education, a lot of needs to go into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see that. And I think for me, what we have to encourage young people is to actually understand that being a billionaire is not gonna make you happy. I mean, having money more or less sorts out a few of your problems. Now
You don't
can
have
move
to think
around.
about. I mean, it reduces your stress
It
level.
reduces your stress, but we have to think about
But and
once
at
you've
times
been-
increases your stress, man. Because now I'm like, hey, my friend has a 1 million watch. Now I want a 1.2 million watch.
Yeah.
So the stress, I mean, increases, reduces, whichever. I think goes back to one thing: contentment. Are you content with what you have?
Actually in Spanish, the word for happiness is contento.
Are you content, bro? Let me tell you, I could be walking to work, and I'm so happy. I'm so content. Like kuna mtu akona gari na akona loan ya 4 million.
So people are actually, we are more or less trying to be crowd pleasers.
Yes.
We are not working because,
at the expense of not happiness. Happiness you can create. I mean, happiness comes from so many other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Contentment, being content. I think that's what a lot of people don't have.
Are you content?
Am I content? I'd say not yet. I think there are a few things I'm yet to sort out.
Like what?
I feel like I'm not helping young people enough. I feel like there's a gap I'm leaving that needs sorting out. Yeah.
Once you've done that, you think you'll be content.
And
So once
it's
we've
a bad
bred
thing.
this 100 young entrepreneurs who will be out there creating thousands and thousands. I mean, because one of the beautiful thing about nurturing entrepreneurs is this. You nurture one entrepreneur, he employs 10 people.
Yeah,
That's a multiplying effect.
I looked at my pitch deck, my starting pitch deck, and it says our success is employing 1 million young people.
Really?
Yeah.
Where are we at so far?
I mean, I've created about 100 entrepreneurs, 200. They have 4 or 5 employees. So we
Because
we are headed there.
that is actually, because getting young people into work, I mean, I told you already that day that young people were out on the streets, I was just like, these people have energy to protest from 7 a.m. to 7. Do you understand? Like, there are people who want to have energy for even an hour.
Ni KFC.
Hata kama ni KFC, but I mean, at least they have the health. I mean, man, if these people just got jobs.
And that's what I think the government needs to learn. Yeah, you see those people on the streets. Those are lawyers. Those are doctors. Those are engineers. They're not going on the streets just because they are jobless.
Yeah,
they are going to the streets because they are jobless, but they also know.
They already have the training to get a decent
Those
job.
are people who can overturn you like nothing else, man. Like they can totally change everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fight of not just desperation, but desperation with knowledge. Somebody knows what they're fighting for. On top of knowing what they're fighting for, they know what they're fighting for can be achieved.
Yeah.
So when you don't do it that way, you're insulting their experience and their knowledge and their expertise and everything in between.
Okay, so that's really good. So what we have to tell young people is that, you know what, for now, we are young and we are daring.
Yeah.
We need to do daring things. The other thing I have to tell you about this Young and Daring podcast, the reason why daring has come to my mind quite a lot, my life has been influenced by, I was in Strathmore.
I thought you wanted to say you've played a lot of truth or dare games. Just continue, man.
Shaka. I mean, I play truth or dare, but I don't play it every day. I know I have to say this. So, in Strathmore, do you remember the man who inspired the spirit of Strathmore? Saint Josemaria.
Yes.
So, Saint Josemaria during the Spanish Civil War in Spain, because there was
we were not born, no.
We were not yet born. I mean, that's the other problem. Is once you know a lot of history, you become very old.
Yeah.
I mean, I know lots of things that happened in the medieval times, you know, or ancient Hellenistic period. It makes you very old because you say some things and people are like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just because you've read or you've been taught all that. So Saint Josemaria used to have a more or less a center where men could go and they would learn what is it called? You know, personality enhancement. They would learn a little bit about God. They would learn lots of things on how to become a really good man. He named the place DYA because initially it was just for people who are doing law and architecture. DYA is Derecho y Arquitectura, so law and architecture. But then later on, during I think it was after the Spanish World War or whatever, people just got fond of the name. They used to label DYA as Dios y Audacia, God and daring. Like once, and I think this might sound a bit, you know, very lofty, but what it basically means is once you're doing the right thing, you can dare do anything.
Yeah.
Like just do the right thing. Like you can't say, I'm daring to smoke cannabis. Bro, what are you doing? Like that's not the kind of daring we're talking about. We want young people who are daring to get other people jobs. They're daring to be courageous. They're daring to be adventurous. They're daring to take an initiative. They're daring that even in the case of, you know, suffering, they persevere and they're resilient. Yeah. That's the kind of daring we are talking about. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Innocent. It was nice you being hosted by you.
Today we hosted each other. Seems like it.
Maybe we should do this more.
Yeah, happy
Maybe
to.
next time also we have lots of things to actually
Yeah, so
talk
many
about.
stories.
We've just talked about like,
Yeah.
it's tip of the iceberg.
As the official host, do you want to wrap this up for us?
Ah, gosh. I thought I'd already wrapped it up, but anyway, it's always a pleasure, guys, having all of you. And I want to hear your thoughts about the podcast, especially, feedback. What do you think we should improve on? Who do you want to see on set? Do you like the conversation we had with Innocent? Do you think we should have more of these conversations? And lastly, I want to hear, if you're young, what are you daring to do? Thanks a lot. This has been, no, I'm not your host. This has been your guest, Tomas Obam. Until next time, peace.